This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. It feels so good to be able to say that without feeling like I'm about to cough my lungs out or anything.
That is a good thing.
Yeah, because last week I was super sick.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks I've just, this whole freaking winter. Anyway,
yes.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com, and you can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And episode sponsor for this week is once again Horror Movie Yearbook, which is a horror movie podcast devoted to their goal is to take a movie or a series of movies, a few different movies from a specific year of release, and review them and discuss them in the context of the year of release and the current events and pop culture of the year of release. You can find them on Twitter at HM Yearbook and at horrormovieyearbook.com. And thank you to Horror Movie Yearbook and the Midwest Podcast Network for sponsoring this week's episode. So, Tiny, today we're talking about Black Panther, right?
We are.
Yes, and we're also going to do some other stuff too. How you been?
I've been good.
Good.
Some sickness is going around.
Yes.
As you just said. My wife was sick. It's crazy out there.
Right. That's the reason why we didn't record last week.
Right.
Yeah, your wife was sick.
Wash your hands, people.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
And wear sunscreen, I guess.
Right. Just bathe in Purell before you leave the house.
Yes. It sucks because even me working from home and not being out in the world, I'm not immune from getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get sick, I'm just stewing in the bacteria of my apartment.
Right.
So.
No, I go to different places every day, and it's you can't actually go in there because we have 17 managers who work here, and 15 of them are sick. So
Jesus.
Seriously, it's crazy.
That's terrible.
Yeah. I was working at the zoo, and one of the areas we could not go to because there's 3 zookeepers that work in that area, and all 3 of them were out sick.
Jeez.
I was like,
did you get to see any of the animals?
I want to see the pandas, though.
Right?
There's no pandas at the Indy Zoo.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah. We'll get them there.
We will.
We have this whole Free Willy thing. Anyway.
But fun story real quick. Mm-hmm. I laughed at a door while we were there. Just wait. Okay. We drove by this place, and we were driving by this place, and the guy who was escorting us, we drove by, and he was like, "Can you guess what that door is for?" It was 3 stories tall. It was a door just for giraffes. It was 3 stories tall, but 6 feet wide.
That's awesome.
I laughed. I don't know why. It was just so funny to me. I was like, "It's a giraffe door." Do you call the manufacturer yeah, we need a door for a giraffe. It needs to be 26 feet tall and 6 feet wide. That's just, I don't know why. I just thought it was so situationally hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
There's a giant tall door, but it's so skinny.
God.
So we have a giraffe door. Anyways.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, sidetrack.
Nice. Anyway, check out the Indianapolis Zoo.
It's cool.
I actually want to go this year.
Very nice place.
Yeah, it's very cool. We're going to be reviewing the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Black Panther. Mm-hmm. And before we do that, also, since we didn't get to do our Prime Selections episode, we're going to double up and do Black Panther review plus our Prime Selections. So, if you've been waiting for us to talk about, Conspiracy and Marjorie Prime, you don't have to wait that much longer. So, but before we get to all of that, we're actually going to have a couple of quick news things that aren't necessarily news. I just want to give a quick shout out to another podcast called The Grand Gesture, which is a podcast that they reached out to me because of Letterboxd, actually, to have me on to be a guest on their show to discuss that awkward moment, because as the hosts told me, I'm one of the only people who liked the movie on Letterboxd. That awkward moment being the rom-com with Michael B. Jordan, I think Miles Teller, and
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron, not Miles.
Miles Teller's in this too.
Miles Teller. So wait, who was the other guy? Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan, yeah.
Miles Teller and Zac Efron. So anyway, so I was going to be on that show, but unfortunately I couldn't get the schedules worked out. But I just want to give a quick shout out to the Grand Gesture. Check them out. I've listened to several of their episodes. It's really cool. They basically break down the romance in movies, by like the meet cute, the kind of setup and the breakup and the grand gesture, essentially. It's a really cool podcast, and
Nice.
I'm going to be listening to a lot of it. Yeah. So check that out. Once again, it's called The Grand Gesture. And then the other piece of news that okay, so I haven't even seen this trailer, but Tiny, I wanted to bring this up because as part of our to give context to our listeners, you and I used to work together as security guards, working nights.
Yep.
And so I don't know if I want to even bring this up because it's like not necessarily embarrassing, but it's something that I didn't really follow through on, a creative endeavor I never followed through on.
Okay.
But and I wasn't very good at it. But you remember how I dabbled with like trying to write screenplays and stuff?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Okay, yeah. So do you remember? I don't know how I'm going to present this. So first of all, there is okay. I don't know if you're aware of this movie. So let me start this way. When I was doing that, I had this idea that I guess like it was like the most, like my idea was like just do the most weird, like stupid, ridiculous thing just to kind of get the format down. Do you remember what that was?
I believe I do.
Yes.
What? I think, was it security guards who
No.
were at work?
No, that was the one I was more serious about.
Okay.
I had another idea that was you'll remember it when I say it.
Okay, I'm sure I will.
Okay, so anyway, it was called Tornado Train.
Yes.
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 Oh, I remember some of your ideas. I really
Right.
wanted you to write that. Yes.
So, for context for our listeners, Tornado Train was my magnum opus, I would say.
Yeah.
I had a few like scant ideas around it. Basically, it was a train that was being pursued by a tornado. And a couple of ideas that I had as part of it was that there would be a scene in like the dining car with a bunch of like gruff, like gritty, like bad guys.
Yes.
That they would be planning like some kind of misdeed, and they would like drink on it, but every single one of them would like take a shot of whiskey or take a drink of their whiskey or something, but they would not be able to hold their gag reflex.
They'd be like, oh,
They would
yes.
react so hard to it.
I remember laughing really hard
Yes.
at that.
And the funny thing is, the reason why that was part of the idea and everything is that, you know, they say you should write what you know. And I can, like, that's my reaction every time I like drink liquor.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was one idea. My other idea that I was really proud of, for as stupid as it was that I wanted a character to, it kind of had like a Western kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So like, imagine like a saloon in that scene, like as the dining car is like a kind of a mini saloon. And then you would have this one like gunslinger character who is so pissed off at the tornado for chasing them and wreaking havoc that he goes to the like caboose of the back of the train, and he would say like something like, "Go to hell, you tornado," or something, and then would fire a gun at the tornado because that would work. But it would go like into like not necessarily bullet time, but like the point of view of the bullet, and it would like show it firing from the gun and going in slow motion toward the tornado, and then getting whipped around in the kind of cyclone of the tornado, and then turning around and just getting the guy right in the head.
God.
Like, I thought that would be a cool thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, the reason why I'm saying this embarrassing story is that, Tiny, are you aware of this movie that's coming out like next month?
Oh my God, no. What's it called?
Okay, let me. First of all, my lawyers are. It's not the same thing, but it's
Okay.
The title is The Hurricane Heist,
Oh.
and the plot description is.
Yes, I've
Yes.
seen the trailer for this.
How is the trailer? Because I haven't seen it.
It's you could have written it.
Nice. Thieves attempt a massive heist against the U.S. Treasury as a Category 5 tornado or Category 5 hurricane approaches one of its mint facilities.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see this movie.
Oh my god.
Directed by Rob Cohen, who directed the first Fast and the Furious movie. Cast includes Toby Kebbell, Maggie Grace, Ryan Quanten, and who else do I recognize?
I think that's it.
A whole bunch of nobody that I recognize.
Right.
But yeah, I just like every time like I hear about it on like Twitter or anything, I'm like, that's almost my idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that when I completely forgot about Tornado Train.
Oh, yeah. Everyone else will after 5 minutes after listening to this episode.
Yeah. Oh,
Copyright Matt Hurt, obsessivehero.com, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention that every time I thought that one, I don't know, it kind of blew my mind a little bit. Yeah, so I think that'll do it with news. Yeah, if you want to hear more about Tornado Train, let me know. Yeah.
Check back in theaters next year.
Yeah, well,
shooting for a 2019 release.
Yeah. Tornado 19 release.
Oh my god.
Give me money, Hollywood. Anyway, so that's about it for news. I don't have anything else for news.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else you want to bring up, or should we dive into our Black Panther review?
I think we should dive into our review.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's see. So let's talk about Black Panther. First of all, I'm going to read the plot description, courtesy of IMDb. Okay, so Black Panther is the, I believe, 18th Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
Wow.
Yeah. It is, the plot description, according to IMDb, is T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, rises to the throne in the isolated, technologically advanced African nation, but his claim is challenged by a vengeful outsider. So this movie stars some really great, a really great cast. There is Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, Lupita Nyong'o, what is her name?
Denai
Guerrera. Michael B. Jordan, Martin Freeman,
Daniel Kaluuya,
Andy Serkis, and a bunch of people. Also, an appearance by Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty surprising.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, this is, like we said, the 18th, I believe, Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. So, Tiny, what were your expectations going into Black Panther? Of course, we'll do a non-spoiler review and then do a spoiler review after that. So, what was your anticipation for this? Did you read any of the hype or anything? And what were your feelings going into the movie?
I was curious how much it was going to infuse with like the Avengers and like the actual cinematic universe. I was wondering like if there was going to be like an Avenger making a cameo in it, or I don't know, Spider-Man, some other big Marvel character who's going to be in the Infinity War movie, Doctor Strange or Ant-Man or somebody. So I was curious about that. I was kind of looking forward to something like that. And I was just expecting this movie to kind of set itself apart because it is such a really important movie, like Wonder Woman. You know, it has a big cause behind it. I guess cause might not be the right word, but cultural, a lot of meaning behind it. Yeah, cultural importance. Yeah. So I wanted them to do it right. I wanted them to set this movie apart and kind of acknowledge that to a pretty high degree. So that's kind of what I was expecting. And I think it did a decent job delivering on that. So
nice. And what was the my expectations for it are pretty much the same. I was really hopeful that there wasn't going to be any tie-in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I wanted it to be kind of a standalone thing. Okay. Just because I felt like it would have been a little if they would have included some like Easter eggs or any like characters or anything from other MCU movies, I feel like it would have been perceived as a crutch. Like, oh, we're not so sure if Black Panther is going to sell. Let's bring in the Hulk and have
that's
him
true. Yeah.
do that. So I think it shows a lot of faith from Marvel and Disney that they were able to do this movie kind of as a standalone kind of thing. Obviously, it has elements that were introduced in other Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, like Andy Serkis's character was introduced in Age of Ultron, and of course, T'Challa himself, Black Panther, was introduced in Civil War. Yeah. So this movie, what was the theater experience like? When did you go? You had asked if you had invited me to go, but I already had plans to, so I'm sorry.
Yes, I guess I was late to the party.
You were. Yeah.
I had to go stag.
Yeah. How was that? What theater did you go to, first of all?
I had a really good theater experience. I went to
Nice.
actually went to Shiloh.
Oh, nice.
My go-to is
Traders Point.
Is Traders Point on the northwest side of Indy, but I actually went out to Avon for Shiloh, which is kind of our old stomping grounds, if you will. And so I went out there just because the time was better. I went on a Sunday matinee at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The reason why I had such a great time and it was notable is because it was sold out.
Nice.
Which is awesome.
Sunday at
Sunday at 1, it was sold out.
That's
and
so cool.
And there were people there like decked out in like African garb.
That's so cool.
Not a lot. Like I think it was maybe only a half dozen people, but it was cool. And like there were like little kids there who were like, "Yeah, Black Panther," and everybody was really respectful, and everything got laughs and stuff like the stuff that needed laughs got laughs, and it was just a really positive experience.
Nice.
You know, you kind of expect. I think even when like going to like a Spider-Man showing or one of the other like Avengers movies and stuff, I don't really see people dressed up.
Right.
And if they do, it's like, you know, an Iron Man mask or something like that.
Yeah.
And it just feels a little bit like you're fanboying. But this was completely different because it was like this is part of who I am as a person, part of my culture, and that's why I'm dressing up. That was like, it had extra meaning that way. Like for so many people, it wasn't just a movie, you know?
Right.
So
That's so awesome.
I could totally feel that as I was like watching it. So
nice.
pretty special.
That's awesome. No one was like dressed up or anything at my viewing of it, but it's interesting because like we've even talked about with I think with Mike how he's talked about how like the Star Wars movies used to be like events. Like he used to go to at midnight and everything and get dressed up and have like little lightsaber fights and stuff like that. But anymore, it's just a movie that comes out again.
Yeah.
And like even when we saw Star Wars, like I remember seeing just people just like in Star Wars shirts and stuff, but not anyone was like, no one was like really dressed up or anything. So that's really cool that they that Black Panther brought that out in the fan base.
Absolutely.
As for my theater experience, it was also pretty packed. I don't think it was sold out. I actually went to a Saturday night screening at like 6:40. It's funny because my friend who I go see movies with sent me a text and was like, "Hey, suggestion. Since it's Saturday and it's Black Panther and this is a big movie, we should get to the theater like half an hour early to make sure that it's not like a long line to get our tickets because we pay in advance and go through the line. And like at AMC theaters, you know, you can kind of bypass the line of people buying their tickets if you're a Stubs member, or a Premier member, or whatever it's called. But like the last, like a few times when we've gone, it's been like back, like we've had to wait like 10 or 15 minutes to get through the line. So we expected it to be like that, but I mean, it was actually pretty quick. Like we just went in and just got our tickets. It was like, it wasn't an issue, even though it was a packed house and everything, but fortunately, the line wasn't long, so we ended up getting a drink. Which I love the AMC theaters how they have the MacGuffins,
the bar.
It's great. Unfortunately, that led to me having to really pee, and I missed Stan Lee's cameo. Yeah, but anyway, we'll get to that in my review or in our review. But anyway, so yeah, it was a packed house, a really great crowd. I loved the experience because like everyone erupted in applause at the end of it, and I thought that was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's go into our kind of broad feelings about the movie as a whole. Of course, we'll keep the spoiler free, and then we'll dive into spoilers after we exhaust our non-spoiler review. So Tiny, overall, like in broad strokes, what did you think of Black Panther?
I thought it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Most notably for the cast. I think the casting was just perfect. I could not imagine any other or think of any other better actors to play these roles. I also really loved the story. The central conflict is kind of a slow play. It kind of comes in a little bit later in the movie than you would think necessarily. And just that the story, I think, was really well played. However, there were a couple things I was a little bit let down by. I feel like the action was a little generic. I wasn't real happy with the camera work in the action. I thought it was just okay. It didn't stick out to me like a lot of the other MCU movies. I was a little let down there. And then I wanted there to be like an Avenger in it. Like I wanted there to be like Iron Man shows up or Thor, whoever. I didn't really even care who it was, but and I agree. I don't necessarily disagree with what you said about how, Marvel was like, no, Black Panther can, like, this is it's a good standalone movie. We don't need the help from that. And I didn't want that cameo for that reason. I wanted the cameo because I feel like it's kind of the opposite of that. I feel like it's like we have so much faith in Black Panther that we're presenting him as being part of this big team that, like, will eventually take on Thanos in these movies, and like he's a legit superhero, so legit that Tony Stark needs to show up and like talk to him and be like, hey, we need your help, or something like that. That's kind of how I like, he's on the radar of the Avengers, which obviously he is because of Civil War. Yeah, but I think it would have been a sort of an inclusionary thing, including Black Panther and the MCU a little bit more. But it wasn't
solidify him being in Civil War.
I didn't hate it, but I was sort of expecting it. Because that's one of my favorite things about like Spider-Man: Homecoming is that Tony Stark was throughout the whole movie, or
like Falcon in Ant-Man,
right?
Like that.
Exactly.
That was a great cameo.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I can understand that.
I kind of wanted something like that, but it didn't destroy the movie for me or anything.
Sure.
But
Nice. Overall for me, I thought the action was pretty cool. But I think that's mostly just I don't want to say novelty, but like the kind of, the interesting way that Black Panther is depicted. Like, I mean, he's got like claws and like, he's like a kitty cat. But, it's funny because I end every episode with like, I don't know if you've noticed or anything, or if you're aware of this, Tiny, but at the end of each episode, after the pre-recorded outro, I have a clip of me saying "kitty."
Oh my god!
From a snap that I sent a year or so ago. Anyway, that's officially part of Obsessive Viewer. Anyway, so the action I thought was pretty cool. Just because there was some elements of it that. The very cool thing about Wakanda is it's this technologically advanced society, and the way that the technology is depicted in the movie, and the kind of variety that we have of different technological things throughout the movie was that was my favorite part of the entire movie. Like there's a segment or a sequence where. I won't give anything away, but it involves a high-speed chase through a city street. And the way that it's depicted in it, and the kind of technology that's used with Black Panther, like on the top of a car. I just thought that was such a cool like element to bring to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Totally.
Just really cool. And then let's see, what about, performances? First of all, Chadwick Boseman, the accent that he uses for T'Challa, there's something about it. It's like, I love hearing it. Like, it's such a great accent.
Yeah.
And I think that he's really good in the role as well. Like, he definitely has this kind of young king kind of embodiment to him that isn't overbearing. Like, he's kind of the stoic character. But he's got advisors and people in his life that are like, he's not like this just emotionless person. Like, he has these emotions that he in these interactions that he has with other characters are just bring out the dimension to his character a lot.
Right.
But
he's very humble too.
Exactly.
For a king. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I've been a Chadwick Boseman fan for a while. I loved him in 42. I thought he was the best part of that movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was like, I think this guy's going to go places. So I've been a fan of his for a while, and I was ecstatic about him being cast as Black Panther. The only thing that would have been more perfect is if Michael B. Jordan was cast as Black Panther.
Right.
He's easily one of my favorite actors working right now. I just love him. And dear God, he's a beautiful man.
Seriously, yeah.
He's awesome.
Are you talking about Michael B. Jordan?
Yes.
Would you say that he's an Adonis Creed? Adonis Creed.
Oh my God. Yeah. Call back.
Anyway.
But one thing that was interesting was, I think, and I hope this goes over well, but Chadwick Boseman wasn't in ridiculous shape for the movie. He was in good, he's in good shape. He's obviously great physical stature, but he wasn't Michael B. Jordan was ungodly ripped and bulked up, and he wasn't like Thor, the first Thor movie.
Right.
He was that was just, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's just it was kind of different to see. Yeah. I expected him to be just shredded beyond belief.
So you're saying that Chadwick Boseman, who appeared in 42, had that baseball player body, while Michael B. Jordan had a boxer body.
Yes.
Previously appeared in Creed.
Exactly. No, but it's not a criticism or anything. It's just something I noticed, and I was
kind of refreshing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and it made those sequences where, the challenges in the movie,
right,
a little more because if you have Chris Hemsworth being challenged for the throne of Asgard, and you see Chris Hemsworth is freaking ripped, like you said,
right.
Okay, yeah, it's no brainer, but I think part of that is also the kind of humbleness that you mentioned that Chadwick Boseman brings to the character. It's you think okay, well, the stakes are really high because when he's being challenged for the throne, it's that in terms of the character and the way that he's emoting through the movie and through his actions and his demeanor and everything, that if he were to fail in one of these challenges, he wouldn't challenge the challenge or anything.
Right.
He would do he would honor the results, and that's something that comes through really well in very few words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then for the rest of the cast, I thought everybody was really good. Martin Freeman, I feel like his character is just a little drab, just a little bit boring. Not terrible. But if it wasn't Martin Freeman playing that character, he'd be beyond forgettable, I think. He
kind of felt like that. He kind of felt more like he was that established MCU character tie-in,
right?
Because he was in Civil War for a few brief scenes.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like in this movie he kind of felt a little, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, not pigeonholed or anything, but he's kind of he was kind of placed there to be the MCU anchor.
Right.
Not that I didn't like his performance, because I liked his performance quite a bit, but it felt from my perspective, it felt like we didn't really need that, because Wakanda is its own entity, and T'Challa's story is interesting enough without the CIA,
right,
Marvel Cinematic Universe thing.
Yeah.
Did you see the tweet that's been going around about Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman? So great.
Laughed really hard.
Me too. For context, the tweet is something to the effect of Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis both appeared in The Hobbit, and they are the only white characters in Black Panther, so you might say that they're the Tolkien white guys.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so great.
Yeah, I laughed really hard at that one.
Yeah. What did you think of Andy Serkis and Claw?
as far as like physicality, Andy Serkis is the new Gary Oldman.
Oh,
he
yeah.
is a chameleon. Like, to look at him, like, if you look at his IMDb picture, he looks like a pasty, frizzy British man.
He really does.
But if you look at what he looks like in this movie,
yeah,
he looks like this scary, like, he looks like a guy who plays rugby for fun,
right?
And just demolishes people, and he's like super intimidating. And
I feel like that says a lot about you as a person.
What?
Like, oh, he plays rugby for fun.
like, because rugby's hard.
It's such a grueling thing. He actually plays it for fun.
Like he looks like he just goes and beats the shit out of people for fun.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Like, he's
very intimidating.
Yeah, he looked crazy in this movie. I loved it, and his voice and his whole attitude is he's just a nutball. I think some people might make the argument that he's a little over the top, but
sure,
I really didn't feel that way. I thought he was maybe close to the line, but I just thoroughly enjoyed his performance. He was great. So then, as far as some of the other big performances, Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, and Letitia Wright, kind of the three female leads of the movie. I thought they were all just perfect casting. Really deep characters, lots of like comic relief, and just I love Danai Gurira. First of all, she's one of the best parts of The Walking Dead still.
Right.
But yeah, Lupita Nyong'o is awesome, and she's also very. Like, such a diverse actor. If you look at her short body of work so far, she's played so much different kind of stuff, and I'm glad that they got her for this movie.
Me too. Lupita Nyong'o was fantastic in it, but Letitia Wright stole every scene.
She did.
As T'Challa's sister, who kind of is the cue to his James Bond. And I loved every second that she was on screen, and there's a lot of talk about how they should do like a Women of Wakanda spinoff movie, and I'm all for that. I think I already said that.
Totally.
Yeah. What else?
I feel like Angela Bassett didn't really have anything to work with at all.
She really didn't.
There was really no room for another character that had a lot of depth. So
and I feel like the kind of romantic subplot with him and Lupita Nyong'o, I felt like that kind of felt a little underdeveloped as well.
A little forced too.
Yeah, because it was kind of like, we can save that for spoilers actually.
Okay.
I mean, it was needed. It was. I see what they were going for with it, but it just kind of felt a little underwhelming for me, or not as impactful as it could have been.
And then the last two performances I think that are notable are Daniel Kaluuya as W'Kabi. I thought also he just didn't have a lot to work with either. He wasn't like a really well-rounded character, but not as a result of his performance. Just kind of there's only so much time you can develop for each character. So and then Winston Duke as M'Baku, as like kind of the outsider tribe. Great, like, comic relief, and he was he had a very larger than life kind of presence. Totally like fit for like a king or like a leader of a tribe character.
Very intimidating.
I wasn't familiar with him at all. But
I don't think I am either.
I'd love to see him in more stuff because he was like very magnetic.
Totally. Yeah, and like I said, he's very intimidating, but also he has this kind of comedic timing that really, really kind of undermines the intimidation. Yeah. While still making him very intimidating. Right. Just because of his stature and everything. And then finally, of course, I don't think we've really talked about this that much in the non-spoiler that much, but Michael B. Jordan, man. Yeah. He was phenomenal.
He is. I love that guy.
I saw this great tweet that said something to the effect of, between Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan, Marvel Studios has successfully rescued both of the failed Human Torch actors.
Nice.
Which I thought was great.
That's awesome. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it kind of blew my mind just a little bit. Yeah. It reminds me of like the the kind of meme after Civil War where, like, the scene in Civil War where Captain America tells Peter Parker, he's like, hey, where are you from? And he's like, Queens. And he's like, Brooklyn. Just reminds me of, like, the bit where, like, on like, the meme where it says, like, where are you from? Oh, Sony. Oh, Fox.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
But Michael B. Jordan, this is his character's name is Killmonger, and he is. I mean, we'll talk more in spoilers, but he is one of the most well-rounded villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Definitely.
And just the emotion that he brings to the role, and the emotion of his backstory, and the character himself, like it's far and away like one of the best like character arcs in the MCU, in my opinion.
If he didn't have such basically evil intentions, he would almost be like an anti-hero.
Totally.
Like you almost like root for him a little bit.
You totally get where he's coming from.
Absolutely.
And it's just it's so great how it's handled, how it concludes. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and like what they managed to achieve with his character in one movie is really impressive. You know, we've talked many times about the villain issue in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's you reference a lot of other movies like Guardians of the Galaxy and you know several other movies. Like the villain's just like kind of there, kind of a placeholder.
Right.
And this was not that at all.
Totally.
Yeah. Really good stuff. Did Brian Coogler write this too? Ryan Coogler? Yeah, he did.
Did he? Okay.
He wrote. Yeah. Well, he had some help. But.
Right. And yeah. So okay. I want to talk about Ryan Coogler, but first, while we're circling the villain thing. I went on a little 3-tweet rant because I saw at least 1 or 2 articles that like the headline was Killmonger is the best MCU villain, and like that alone's fine. Like I like that, but that's the premise of the article. But the headline needed to specify or like needed to add yes, even better than Loki, and like. I have kind of a bug up my ass about that because at this point, we're 18 movies into this in the cinematic universe. Are we really still, is there really still a compelling argument for Loki being the best Marvel villain or even a great Marvel villain? Because when you compare it to like Killmonger's arc in Black Panther, I mean, the way I worded it in the tweet was that characterization trumps charisma any day of the week. And I feel like the big thing that people like love about Loki is that he's this charismatic villain. And like, I mean, Tom Hiddleston does a fantastic job, but the truth of the matter is him as a villain in the MCU is he was introduced in Thor, which was one of the worst, if not the worst, Phase 1 movies. And he is, like, his arc in the first Avengers movie is that he is just a power-hungry person who has a MacGuffin that brings just nameless hordes of aliens to Earth.
Right.
And it's just like there's not enough there from a character level. And I love that we're at a point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe where we get this very like richly defined villain. And it's even been evident in other movies too. Like Thor Ragnarok kind of had that with Hela, and then even more so with Spider-Man Homecoming with Vulture. Like his that character was amazing. I just love that we're getting to the point where like Marvel Studios is listening to us and everything, but I just don't really like this conversation where it's like, oh, well, what about Loki? It's like Loki is not that compelling of a villain.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's that great.
Yeah. You know, I haven't spent enough time thinking about like who's the best, but I mean, Loki's a top 5 for me, but yeah, I just think back to his, how diabolical he is, because he's always running some kind of scheme, or you know, you think he's being nice or he's joining the ranks, and then he's ultimately not. And I think that's just a super villainous characteristic of him, and maybe
that's fair.
I mean, it's a little mischievous. You could almost write it. write
He's
it
the
off
god
as
of mischief. Yeah.
right. Yeah, you could write it off as mischief as opposed to villainy or like evil, malice. But I don't know. I guess I don't know if I'd say he's the best, but he's probably top 3 for me.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I just think that it's just the repetition of him, like, oh, he's on Thor's side. Oh, no, he's not, kind of thing. And it's just, I kind of feel like part of the conversation around Loki being the best villain or one of the greatest villains is that, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but I kind of feel like people are looking at just Avengers through rose-colored glasses, because Avengers was a huge movie.
Right.
Like, we didn't know, like, just the fact that they were bringing all these people together and everything. So, of course, like, that experience is very much tied to a very great experience. But if you go back and look at it critically, I mean, Loki isn't that, like, it's just not a very well-defined character. Yeah. But anyway, that's too much of a digression. But, but Killmonger, man, he was great.
Yeah, Eric Killmonger is a better villain than Loki.
Oh, absolutely.
Without question, yeah.
And yeah, just, again, Michael B. Jordan is ripped and an Adonis.
As I was watching it, I was thinking, like, can Michael B. Jordan be in everything?
Right?
Can they cast him in every movie?
Right.
I can't take my eyes off the guy.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
It was funny because there was a a thing from, I think, Vanity Fair. They did a thing where it was like celebrities share their hidden talents, and his was ironing. And it's just a video of him ironing a shirt and talking about how, like, oh, I just think it's soothing and everything. And then, like, I know it's like a couple of, like, film critics I follow, like women film critics, were like, this is the hottest thing I've ever seen.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, he seems like just a charming individual. Like, he seems like a super nice guy.
Totally.
Yeah, so before we go into spoilers, I didn't talk about this at the top, but let's talk a little bit about Ryan Coogler. Mm-hmm. He has had 3 movies, and, like, he's hit home runs critically all 3 times. He had Fruitvale Station, Creed, and now Black Panther. Mm-hmm. Now I know I at least had some kind of issues with Fruitvale Station. It didn't really connect with me that much, but I mean, we loved Creed and now Black Panther. Like, how excited are you about Ryan Coogler's career?
Very, very excited. This is bad, but up until, like, I saw the movie Black Panther, I didn't even know he was a black guy.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Ryan Coogler is, like, one of the whitest names I've ever heard.
It really is.
And so I didn't even know he was a black guy. It didn't really matter. I mean, because I actually liked Fruitvale Station a lot. Mm-hmm.
I should really revisit it. I had some just minor quibbles with it.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Yeah. I think if I revisited it, I would probably appreciate it more. I love the way it was filmed, like it was shot. Like, I remember the way, because it's about Oscar Grant's last day before he's, killed. And I remember being impressed with the way that the time was shown, like, on the screen. And of course, it had supporting performance by Octavia Spencer, who I think she is just far and away an incredible actress.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Coogler's star is on the rise, and it's for good reason. I mean, I saw somebody posted a tweet. I don't know if it was a tweet or what it was.
I think I know what you're going to say.
It was like he had like a $900,000 budget for Fruitvale Station, and it made like $20 million. They gave him like $40 million for Creed, and it made like 160. And now they gave him like $200 million to make Black Panther, and again, he's probably going to double or triple that.
I think I don't want to quote this, but I want to say that 200, like, that's what it made it back in its opening weekend.
Yeah, oh yeah, it did. It made like 220 or something. Yeah.
The tweet that I thought you were going to bring up was that it was something to the effect of like, I just realized that Ryan Coogler is only 31 years old, and now I'm rethinking all of my life choices.
I know, God, yeah, he's our age.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Friends bit where Monica's dating the millionaire that's played by Jon Favreau. Somewhat ironically, because he directed Iron Man and Iron Man 2. But where Chandler's just like, "You're our age," and like he just keeps repeating, like, "You're our age."
That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I think Coogler and Jordan is the next Scorsese DiCaprio.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, like if they pair up, I'm there.
Yeah. After seeing Black Panther, I was like, I never want them to do a movie, like, I never want one of them, or I never want Ryan Coogler to do a movie without Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The way that they work together is so great, and it comes across as just an incredible pairing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into spoilers. I'm going to play a clip from the trailer, and then we're going to dive into spoilers for Black Panther. So if you haven't seen the movie, go and turn this off, go check it out, and come back and listen to it. So here's your warning. We are going to go into spoilers for Black Panther starting now.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's going to start over. I'm going to burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. What's on that for? The revolution will not be televised.
All right, so we are spoilers on for Black Panther, and before we actually begin, I'm going to read some of the comments we got on the Facebook group. I posted and asked what everyone thought of Black Panther, and I got some responses here. Okay, so we got some responses. Matt Quiet from Nerds Domain said, "I loved it. Actually reviewed it for our podcast, Nerds Domain, so check that out." One of our Patreon subscribers, Robert Garter, who has suggested a review for us next week, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode. He said, "Loved it. I know it's in my top 5 of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Just need to see it again to narrow it down." And then our latest Patreon subscriber, Curtis Crutchfield, said, "Loved it. Had some pacing issues between Killmonger's first and second appearances. Also, some of the CG was wonky. Overall, it's my third favorite Marvel movie after Winter Soldier and Avengers 1.
Wow.
Yep. And then friend of the show, Brandon Yoder from Billy and Brandon Watch Movies and Snapshot Productions, said, "Meh. Had some great parts and some terrible parts. Some pacing problems, as some of the others have mentioned. Black Panther himself is really boring. I just don't like his portrayal. Zero charisma, and I lose interest while he's talking. Killmonger was one of the few great villains, and Claw was great, but underused. Everyone around Black Panther was good. I loved his sister. I'd watch a solo film with her. She was really fun, played by Letitia Wright. I agree completely. Wish I would have waited for the post-credit scene. They still haven't given me a reason to care about Winter Soldier." Oh, he said, "Wish I wouldn't have waited for that post-credit scene. They still haven't given me a reason to care about Winter Soldier. Overall, probably bottom third or middle of the pack of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies for me. Glad I watched it, but probably won't go out of my way to ever watch it again." Interesting. So, Tiny, what do you think of the comments?
I wasn't quite that negative as Brandon, but I think his ultimate statement there of middle of the pack or bottom third is similar. I'd say it's a middle of the pack MCU movie for me.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, again, I liked it, and there's a lot of things I like, but one of my biggest action issues, qualms with it, was the final climactic battle between the two Black Panthers. You have two characters in completely black suits fighting in a completely black cave on a black train rail.
That's true.
And then there just wasn't that much of it.
Right.
It was kind of rushed, and I don't know. I really did not. I was not into that final fight between those two at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just didn't care for it that much.
You know what's interesting to me, and to kind of talk more about the kind of pacing issues that Brandon and some other people have brought up in general. It's interesting because in the movie, while I was in the movie, I was thinking when it came to the kind of final, the climax of the movie with the kind of Wakandan Civil War going on, and the two Black Panthers fighting each other. I kind of thought, I had this weird feeling where I was like, this doesn't feel like it should be ending. It feels like we need more time in this world. And honestly, like, I'm kind of counting that as, the pacing worked on me. Like, I wanted to live in the world more, and I wanted to be more in the world. But I wouldn't be surprised if, going back and revisiting it and everything, I wouldn't be surprised if I kind of get a little, I wouldn't be surprised if I feel like the movie is disjointed. But in the moment, in that, the kind of novelty of seeing Black Panther for the first time kind of was what drew me in and made me more excited about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do agree about Claw. I think I wanted to see more of him, and like
me too.
Not necessarily I wanted to see more of him. I just wish he wasn't dead.
Right.
I wish he was going to be in more Marvel movies, but because he was just great.
So when he killed Claw, I turned to my friend and I said, and prepare yourself to laugh, Tiny, and listeners, prepare yourself to be laughing really hard. I said, more like Michael B. Killen. Because he killed Claw?
Yeah.
Anyway, so, I was thrown out of the theater.
More like Eric Clawmonger.
I feel better now. I feel much better.
Whatever.
Yeah. But no, I do agree. Claw, I kind of wish was a little more in the movie. When the post-credit scene happened and we see Bucky Barnes, I kind of wanted him to be like, so can I get one of those prosthetic arms? Like,
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yep.
Because like the way that I love the kind of the way his arm, Claw's arm worked and everything. It was kind of cool. But I agree. He was it kind of felt like the build up toward Michael B. Jordan's rise as a true villain of the movie kind of felt a little, like it took a backseat to Claw's kind of thing. It kind of felt like the whole Claw sequences, in the first couple acts were, kind of just, not placeholders, but they were kind of eating up runtime. So till we can get to the true big bad of the movie.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought that the, Claw sequences were really cool. Like that chase sequence, in South Korea, like that, like I talked about the technology with, the virtual reality kind of car driving with Letitia Wright's character driving.
Right.
Just really cool, inventive technology for the movie.
Yeah, I think that was probably like my favorite action of the movie.
Yeah,
was that? Yeah.
Did you? And this is so nerdy and probably a little too like inside baseball, or it's too much like Tower Junkies, but the disc weapons that Lupita Nyong'o's character had, did those remind you of a certain disc-based weapon in the Dark Tower series?
Now that you say it, yes.
Yes.
But I didn't think of it on the spot.
Okay. And then the scene where Daniel, I don't remember his last, or how to pronounce his last name, the guy from 15 Million Merits.
Yeah.
And Get Out.
Right.
When he had the horn to call the rhinos.
Oh, yeah.
Think of the Dark Tower. Anyway, that's a small tangent. But how did you feel about that big fight sequence? I'll steamroll you before you can answer, but my thought, like, the more I reflect on it, I kind of felt like that was a little sudden, that you have Wakandans fighting Wakandans over two different Black Panthers when one, like, I get it and everything, but it kind of seems like Michael B. Jordan's character is definitely, clearly a bad guy.
Right.
So it kind of felt a little, I didn't necessarily buy into it that much, that they would actually be fighting that heavily. Like
willing to kill each other over it and stuff, yeah. Yeah, and I agree, and then, like, Daniel Kaluuya's, his willingness to so quickly just kind of flip, or, I just feel like there wasn't a lot of motivation for him to do that there. Yeah. It was just kind of, like I said, his character was just pretty understated anyways, so.
He was a little underdeveloped, but I'll kind of push back on the idea of him, it being kind of, quick to flip sides, because, I think that they built that up well, because he was very, his parents were killed by Claw, and, he's been witness to Claw's kind of, destruction of Wakandan people and killing of Wakandan people, that when T'Challa wasn't able to deliver on that, and then suddenly there's this guy who's super ripped, literally delivering Claw's body to Wakanda. Like, I can see the switch there. But not to the extent where he's like leading a revolution against T'Challa.
Right.
Like, I kind of felt like when they were kind of fighting or when they had their kind of moment there, I was just like, dude, you guys are buddies. I mean,
right.
Come on.
And like sending weapons around the world to like colonize the world for Wakanda.
Yeah.
Like that's a bit much.
I liked that element as far as like, it kept the conflict of Black Panther kind of grounded a little bit. Like the overall conflict, it was, two Black Panthers fighting for the throne of Wakanda.
Right.
But it brought like that element of bringing the weapons to around the world so that to give Black people like power over their oppressors and everything. I thought that was a really compelling thing to make it more weight to the movie, like make it more make the tension more strong.
Yeah, I like that as a point of conflict. I just didn't like the idea that Daniel Kaluuya's character jumped on board with that so quickly.
Right.
But yeah,
that's true.
I liked that dynamic as well.
Yeah.
The fact that was his plan all along. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously we can't, like, we're not any authorities on like the race relations commentary that it's making and everything, but I love that it's becoming it is part of the conversation. Like the conversation around Black Panther is how it relates to race relations today. And I love that in the beginning you start, like, the opening scene is 1992 LA, and you see like on the TV the beginning of the race riots and the LA riots. And I love how that it didn't shy away. It's not like, oh, it's a superhero movie, so let's just make this fictional African society that's secretive and everything. Like, they actually put it into context for one of the biggest issues facing the civilized world, or facing the world today, essentially.
Right.
Especially here in the U.S.
Yeah. There's a kind of, to speak to that, there was a line in the movie that I was like, just blew me away, just at how, first of all, it was just like a badass line, and secondly, just the idea of it just kind of blew me away. It's at the end, when after Eric Killmonger had been stabbed, and they're kind of looking out at the sunset.
Yes.
And he said, and like, T'Challa is like,
yes,
we could still probably heal you. And he says, I don't know if this is verbatim, but it's pretty close. He says, no, bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who knew that it was better to die than to live in bondage.
Yes.
I was like,
God damn it.
That's just a badass thing to say.
It is. And
first of all, and just like, it was so fucking powerful too. Right.
Like, man.
Yeah, like he's like sticking to his principles through the end, and like, I was just like, damn, that's hardcore.
Right.
And it was just a really well worded line to say. I was like, dang, it was just awesome line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, didn't pull any punches. Like, it's like, we're not going to mince words here. Like,
right, exactly.
Let your white guilt come to the surface here.
And it's amazing that's like, that this is a mainstream comic book movie, Marvel Studios, Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and it has a message that is so profound.
Yeah.
It's just, it's amazing to me. And that alone is what kind of elevates it to a higher mark for me. Anyway.
The very end, I was kind of like, when he's like at the UN, like addressing the UN, I was kind of hoping he would just like, he'd be wearing the necklace and he would just break out the Black Panther, kind of like Tony Stark at the end of Iron Man. I was kind of hoping for that, but I was like, maybe it makes sense to keep him under wraps for now. But I think that would have been kind of cool.
True, but I love the idea of them of him buying the building
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that was a nice element, and kind of branching out Wakanda's influence and everything.
Right. It's kind of like a Stark Industries type deal.
Yeah, and let's talk in more detail about Killmonger's story, because it's revealed about midway through the movie, I would say, or fairly early, but that he was the son of T'Challa's father,
T'Challa's uncle.
Yeah. T'Challa's uncle.
They're cousins.
Yeah, they're cousins, and T'Challa's T'Chaka, right?
I don't remember his name.
I think it's T'Chaka. Well, that T'Chaka had basically killed
his
own brother, and
right.
That's the impetus of why Killmonger is who he is. Like he wants to, like he is this outcast of this of Wakanda, and he was left behind by his king, and that's where the anger comes from. He feels like he has a rightful cause to the throne. That's more like, well, you know, I deserve it because I was left behind and everything. It's just, it's a really great character arc.
Yeah, he's not just greedy or something. Like he's
exactly.
driven by a purpose.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, he's not just like like Corey Stoll in Ant-Man. Like he's just not like, oh, I'm gonna make a suit too.
Yeah,
like he actually has like a very well defined arc.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else we can really talk about, or should we close it out?
We can close out our.
Okay.
Yeah, close it out.
Okay, yeah, because we're running a bit long. So that is our review of Black Panther. Tiny said it ranks about middle of the ground for you, middle of the pack.
Yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10 as well.
Okay, nice.
Which I think I'm supposed to be doing stars, aren't I?
Yeah, we're on Letterboxd now.
Yeah, we are. 3.5 stars.
3.5 stars? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I rated it 4.5 stars out of 5.
Okay.
Because I really liked it, and I'm curious how it's gonna go on repeat viewings.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but it was so much fun. It was a blast. It was profound. It was just really, really strong performances.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's our review of Black Panther, and yeah. So next up, we're going to finally do our Prime selections. This is probably going to be short because it's been a while. But basically, a couple weeks ago on the podcast, Tiny and I chose Tiny and I chose a movie for each of us to watch on Amazon Prime. I picked a movie for him to watch. He picked a movie for me to watch, and now we are going to give our thoughts on each movie. So, Tiny, you picked for me the HBO movie from, I think, 2001 called Conspiracy. Somewhere around there, yeah. Yeah, or it might have been 2004. But anyway, Conspiracy about Nazis and basically planning out the final solution. Mm-hmm. And then I picked for you 2017's Marjorie Prime. So, do you want to go first? Sure. Okay. So, do you want me to read the plot description? Sure, go ahead. Okay. So, the plot description for Marjorie Prime is a service that provides holographic recreations of deceased loved ones allows a woman to come face to face with the younger version of her late husband. Now, the reason that I picked it for you was that in my hope to go through as many 2017 movies as I could at the end of the year, I happened upon Marjorie Prime, and I rented it, watched it, and I didn't really have a venue to really talk about it. So, Tiny, how did you feel about Marjorie Prime?
It felt like it was like a rejected script from Black Mirror.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I rented it, because I'd heard that it was
really
Black Mirror-esque.
Yeah, I just thought it was okay. Mm-hmm. I wasn't blown away or floored by anything. I love the cast, I'll say that, but I feel like everything about the movie was just so understated. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's some super intense emotional happenings going on and emotional moments taking place in the movie, but I feel like the actors and the characters aren't reflecting that. Mm-hmm. Like there's some of this discovery about past family history that wasn't necessarily shared between members of the family and the way that, you know, there's this idea that you're preserving so in a way this member of your family who's passed away, but it's kind of like your version of that person as opposed to who they actually are, and that's a really fascinating concept and very, you know, very like hard sci-fi kind of idea that I think could be completely possible.
Right.
Like we almost have the technology for something like this now, you know? And so exploring that from a mentally exploring that is, I think, fascinating as hell. And I was interested in that kind of stuff, but I feel like the characters were just so like blasé and drab about everything. I was like really disappointed. Like I wanted like Denis Villeneuve to make this movie or with a decent budget or something, you know, that
would have been so cool.
Yeah. And I don't know that I can necessarily blame the actors. No. I think it was a script issue or just kind of a all around attitude issue about the movie. But I mean, the cast was really good. My favorite was, Tim Robbins. I think he was the most emotionally available person in the movie, and kind of he was the most invested in this idea of kind of, you know, using this technology as a form of therapy or what have you. I liked that. I think he did well with it. And it was fascinating to see how all these characters end up going through this, you know, this process of trying to interact with the hologram,
right?
And how it trying to figure out a way to make it a worthwhile thing, or, you know, if they can find some kind of catharsis through this technology. It was fascinating. I just wish the vehicle was a little bit better for it. Yeah. Ultimately, I was just kind of let down by it.
Yeah, and I think I'm kind of the same way. You put it very well, that it kind of deserved, as far as a concept, it is very fascinating and interesting and thought-provoking, but in execution, there wasn't quite enough to kind of latch onto there.
Right.
What I will say, and I'll probably mention it to you after we record because it'll be kind of spoilery, what you said about kind of concealing parts of the family history so that the hologram, I guess, or hologram, the AI of it is only preserving your version of it. That is a very fascinating concept to me, and I thought that it was portrayed interestingly, but and like the reveal of what's kind of hiding, I thought that was very compelling. And that throughout the movie, I was kind of like, I was struggling to kind of, I was grasping at threads to keep me invested. And like when that kind of turn comes, it's like, okay, now I'm more invested. But I kind of felt like it's kind of told through a few different, like, I would almost say segments, but it's more like just their three distinct acts that are all dependent on like characters. Like they're defined by, each act is kind of defined by a character talking to a hologram, but it's each act is a different character and even a different hologram.
Right.
And I felt like that structure was a little jarring for me, because one moment you get, like, you have an extended period of time where there's a character talking to a specific hologram and you're getting the basis of what's going on. And then suddenly there's like, it jumps ahead to a completely different scenario that you don't even know, like, what the hell's happened.
Right.
That was kind of frustrating, but I kind of love the ending. There's a moment in the ending that I'll talk about to you off mic, but it was really compelling, and like you said, it kind of feels like a rejected script from Black Mirror, and like I feel like this movie could totally be reworked into a Black Mirror episode, and it'd have like a very like impactful ending that's like kind of a mindfuck a little bit.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But also Lois Smith.
Yes.
87 years old.
It was amazing.
I mean,
I was watching, I was like, what do I know her from? I could not place her. And then finally I looked her up, and she was the aunt in Twister.
Yeah.
Like, blows my mind.
Had a memorable performance in Minority Report as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, she's a great actress. And
Totally.
To do such a high concept film at the age of 87 is just really impressive.
Oh yeah.
And Gina Davis, I haven't seen her forever.
Yeah, me neither.
I've never been a huge fan of her acting. Yeah, she's fine, and I mean she's a really gorgeous woman. And so I've always liked that. But I've always thought that she's just an okay actress, and she's kind of, I would almost say, gotten lucky that she's been in kind of iconic roles. Like God, I can't think of the
Leave Their Own. Was she in
that? Yeah, like League of Their Own and like The Fly and
oh yeah.
Jesus, what's the Susan Sarandon movie? God, her like most famous movie. The two women who are friends, and they
Steel Magnolias?
they go off the cliff in the end in the car. God damn.
Oh, Thelma and
Louise, son of a bitch.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Everybody knows what how that movie ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Thelma and Louise.
That's how we're gonna end the podcast. Good. Flying over.
Open up the phone, 911.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I've always felt like she's just kind of gotten lucky that she got really good projects, and that's why she's kind of famous.
Sure.
Which is maybe a harsh thing to say, but
she's not listening.
But I didn't mind her in this. I thought she did a pretty solid job in this.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, it was just notable I hadn't seen her in anything in such a long time. So yeah, it was an okay movie, and I think maybe somebody might have a really strong reaction to it. I think timing could be very important to this. If you had just lost a loved one or something, could totally have a different effect on you.
Did you rate it on Letterboxd? Because I didn't see it on your diary.
I don't think I did.
Okay. I feel like I'm kind of like your supervisor.
Yeah.
I'm micromanaging your Letterboxd account.
I did rate it. Yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars.
Okay. That's
which I'd give it like a 5.5.
Gotcha.
Almost a 6 maybe.
Okay. It's about average movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, that's Marjorie Prime. It is on Amazon Prime, instant video, and it is one of our Prime selections. That we chose for each other. So mine is Conspiracy. And Tiny, do you, first I'll go ahead and read the plot description courtesy of IMDb. Conspiracy is a dramatic recreation of the Wannsee, how do you pronounce that?
I don't know.
Wannsee Conference, where the Nazi final solution phase of the Holocaust was devised. Now Tiny, you had mentioned this on a Potpourri some time ago. It was an HBO movie that was released in 2001. What was your thought process for recommending it to me for our Prime selections?
I think I recommended it because it's kind of an unknown event or a very sparsely known event in history that's connected to like it's connected to one like the worst thing that's ever happened. You know what I'm saying? It's like everyone knows what the Holocaust is, and it's such a such a huge part of the 20th century in human history. It's World War II was this unbelievable thing that killed 60 million people. You know, it's just like, and just the idea that a big chunk of that was planned out in a room by a group of men, and they did so very wantonly, just really blew me away. I had no idea that this conference ever actually happened. I had no idea.
Me neither.
I think a lot of people don't know that, and I don't know how much accuracy is in the film, but you know, I can imagine that a lot of these sayings and conversations actually took place, and just again, it's just another disturbing aspect of the worst thing that's ever happened. And I feel like the Holocaust is something that's hard to learn about, and it's so awful, but I feel like everybody needs to make an effort to try to educate themselves on what happened there, because it's, you know, it's that old saying, if those who don't learn about history are bound to repeat it. You know, I think it's something that we can never forget, and we need to infuse in our education. And this is a great example of doing that and telling that story.
Yeah, I totally get that. I thought this was a fun watch.
Right.
No, this movie was it's a little bit dry because it's just a bunch of guys talking.
Yeah, it's just talking. Yeah.
It kind of felt like a Nazi Holocaust version of like 12 Angry Men, like in structure. It felt like it was like a stage production just on film.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating about it to me really is that you mentioned that you don't know how much of it was true. I feel like no one can really know how much of it was on the head because it was such a secret thing.
Right.
Like I think that only like a few pages of notes survived.
Which is shocking for the Nazis. They wrote everything down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
don't ask me how I know that. No.
There's a fucked up joke there somewhere with Nazis and NaNoWriMo.
Well,
but anyway,
go to Auschwitz and look in the barracks. They have every hallway in the barracks at that place is lined with photos of prisoners, quote unquote, because they tried to literally document with photographs every single person who came through the gates of Auschwitz. And I was like, first of all, it's a big fucking waste of time.
Right.
Secondly, they actually did this, and it's like they eventually had to abandon it, but still, like you just see a 200-foot long hallway full of photographs of like basically like mugshots, and I'm like, man, these guys were fucking dumb and just it's so ignorant. Like, why would you do that?
And like people, not to get on a sidetrack or anything.
Yeah,
but like,
sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No. I'm gonna dive deeper into it.
Okay,
but like, there's like people say like, oh, just think about all of the medical experiments and scientific experiments that happened during the Holocaust and everything. That like those. Like records of that are lost forever. Like it would be interesting to see what findings they had, even though they're terrible, horrible conditions. It would be interesting to see what the things was. But kind of the truth of the matter is, it would be pointless because I don't think the Nazis really adhered to like a strict like scientific method. It was more like just really just horrifying things.
It was hunches. It wasn't hypotheses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't any method to it. It was just cruel. What is the word? I'm like
it's horror.
Horror. Yeah, horror.
Yeah.
Like I read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which was written in like the 60s. So it was kind of interesting. It was like written like relatively soon after it, and like it's very detailed, and it goes like once you get to kind of the end of the war in that book, like there's sections where they just talk in detail about the different experiments and everything that they did to just human beings, like freezing them like alive and putting them in like boiling like furnaces and tubs and just like just disgusting, just horrifying thing. Like I like damn near broken out into tears just listening to it on Audible. But yeah, and like you said, I agree with you completely. It's something that people need to be made very aware of at all times. Like we can't let it just be a historical thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so conspiracy is a fascinating study of what went into getting to that point. Like this is basically a group of Nazis sitting around at this like mansion or whatever it is,
some kind of retreat or something like that.
Yeah. That they are just they're basically troubleshooting how they can eradicate the Jewish population.
Right.
And it's like it's disturbing how like clinical they are about it, and how just how just lax they are about it. Like, okay, well, what if we can eradicate them at this amount? It's very like dry and just like cold. And it's fascinating to me because like the one person who's kind of the voice of contention it's not like he's saying like, no, this is wrong, we need to stop this and everything. It's like, no, well, what if we just castrate them or
sterilize them?
It's just like, it's kind of a hard thing to watch. Just these people that have just no soul, I would say.
Yeah.
Just discussing it as if they're just building a business plan.
Right.
It's disturbing.
Yeah, the good guy in the room is talking about sterilizing them.
Yeah.
And that's the good guy in the room.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Played
Yeah.
by Colin Firth.
Right.
Yeah.
Which the cast is incredible.
Cast is amazing.
It's unbelievable. I'm going to
Yeah.
read off some of the names here.
Stanley Tucci, Kenneth Branagh.
Yes. Colin Firth, as you said.
Colin Firth, I can't remember. Some like character actors are in it, but I can't think of their names.
Yeah. Stanley Tucci.
Mr. Carson from Downton Abbey is in it.
Also, Tom Hiddleston makes an appearance in it.
Yes, yeah.
The phone operator.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ben Daniels, who played the photographer in House of Cards.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, this was a very interesting and emotionally draining movie, and it's not even like emotionally draining in the way that you would think. That it's not emotionally draining in that they show like all of these despicable crimes and everything like that. It's just the fact that human beings can talk like this about other human beings. It's just really horrifying to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Conspiracy.
Cool.
It's available on Amazon Prime as well as HBO Go and HBO Now, of course, since it's an HBO movie.
What did you give it a star rating?
I did. Let me check and see what it was.
It's got a 7.8 on IMDb.
Nice.
It's pretty high.
Yeah, I want to say it was probably 3.5 to 4 stars for me.
Okay.
But let me double check. Okay. Yeah, I rated it 3.5 stars.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So that's Conspiracy. It's on HBO Go and Amazon Prime. It's one of our Prime selections.
Yes.
Which we'll have to do that again.
Totally.
Yeah, so let's see. So then we're going to kind of round out with Potpourri real quick. We can do kind of rapid fire thing.
Sure.
So Potpourri for first time listeners is the part of the podcast where we talk about whatever we want as long as it smells good. That's kind of the tagline of it. It's just basically we bring up something that we've watched or that we're looking forward to or just something that's on our minds related to movies and TV. So that doesn't fit into the main topic of the episode. So let's see. We both have two things, right? You have
yes, two things.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm going to go first. Let me see. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go first. Okay. My first potpourri is Best Picture nominee, Call Me by Your Name, which is the story of a young man named Elio who is 17 years old. He lives in Italy. He's an Italian American. Or an American in Italy, I don't know. But anyway, he's basically living in Italy with his family in the summer. His father is Michael Stuhlbarg, who is a professor. And so the story is about Armie Hammer's character named Oliver, who comes to stay with the professor and his family for 6 weeks in Italy over the summer in 1980, I think 3, as a research assistant. And so the movie revolves around Elio and Oliver striking up a romantic relationship and exploring their kind of romantic feelings for each other. It's gotten a ton of acclaim. It's nominated for several Oscars, and honestly, I didn't get it. I just did not get it.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about without going into spoilers, so I'll avoid spoilers as much as I can. But basically, this movie is very frustrating to me because it is depicting a kind of a torrid love affair between a young man and a mid-20s man who is they're both kind of. They find comfort. I don't even know how to necessarily describe it, but basically it's about Elio coming to terms with his sexuality or discovering his sexuality through his relationship with Oliver. And like that's an interesting premise, and that's something that I would definitely gravitate to because I'm a huge fan of like romantic movies and coming of age movies in particular that like when it's done right, it's done like it can be a really kind of transformative experience or it can be a very strong film experience. But my problem with Call Me by Your Name is that it's this coming of age story. It's mostly from the perspective of Elio, the young man, the 17-year-old. And it's about his relationship with Oliver. Now, Oliver, played by Armie Hammer, is I hate to say, he's a body. He's like, obviously he's a very handsome man, but that is almost the full extent of the depth of his character. And that is very problematic to me because the entire movie is about their relationship and there is not anything to that character. Like, you don't even, like, there's some hesitance about them starting the relationship and about, like, Oliver holds back a little bit. And then Elio is kind of this hormone charged teenager who kind of goes for it. And there's there's some subtext as to why he, would be hesitant and everything, but it's not evident throughout the movie really at all. Like, the extent of Oliver's character development in the movie is that he has a couple kind of sexual perversions. I wouldn't, maybe it's not fair to say perversions, but he has there's these strange, like, non sequiturs where he does something or expresses something sexually to Elio that is just kind of like, that's kind of fucking weird. And
like a fetish, kind of?
Somewhat, yeah. A little bit like a fetish, which not kink shaming or anything. Yeah. But it's like, there's not anything to the character about that. Like, it's just introduced and then dropped and then moved on to something else. It's just really frustrating. And then my biggest gripe about the movie, my biggest point of contention with this movie is that there is a very powerful scene that has been talked about a lot. It's like the big scene of the movie is this monologue that Michael Stuhlbarg gives toward the end of the movie, where he's Elio's father, and he gives this monologue to his son. And, like, people I've listened to reviews about and seen talk about, they're lauding this as like, oh, this is an incredible performance. And in that moment, it is an incredible performance. But what it does for the movie is that it turns this relationship between Elio and Oliver that is by all accounts this summer fling between this teenager who's learning who's coming to terms with his sexuality and like coming of age sexually at the hands of this older man who has nothing in terms of characterization. So it's essentially, there's not like a romance between them. It's kind of like a summer hookup, a summer fling. And that's fine. That's great for a coming of age story. But this monologue at the end, like the end of the movie literally presents the story as if it were some profound love and some profound love affair and some like embodiment of true love. And it's just something that I just almost vehemently just don't buy. Like, that is not communicated in the movie. And it is incredibly frustrating because I think part of my excitement over how disappointed I am in this movie is that it's just in stark contrast to what everyone's saying. I wanted to love this movie. I just couldn't. I just couldn't see what was so great about it. And then, like, it has like all the hallmarks of being like a great like artistic subtextual movie that's all about, characterization and everything. Like, it has it hits those marks on the checklist for that type of movie. But even from a filmmaking standpoint, there are just some really jarring cuts and things that don't pay off or make any sense or aren't communicated. Like, there's a famous scene involving a prop, I'll say, that is very much like it's when you come out of the movie, you're like, that's the scene that you talk about.
Okay.
And like, me and my friend that I saw it with, we've talked about it a lot, and it's like, we just don't get it. I just don't get what is so profound about it. I don't understand what is so interesting about it, and it's so frustrating. Yeah. Like, I posted my review on the Facebook page, and I believe it was one of our listeners, Ben Sears.
Yeah.
I think it was him. He commented and said, like, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that thought this.
Okay.
And like, he specifically pointed out that there was no inner or external like drama to their relationship. And I agree completely. And that's like, if there was something there that caused like some kind of drama or something between them, it would have been a more compelling movie. But they could have made it compelling without that. by having some kind of statement toward the movie. And I feel like part of the statement that it was trying to make is kind of similar to, this is all conjecture on my part because this is not what was communicated to me in the movie, but I feel like part of maybe Oliver's hesitance is that, it's 1980s, and he's an American who just, I feel like there's a cultural thing there, but to be perfectly honest, that's something that, if that's the statement that we're making, then it was completely lost on me. That's just me trying to read into something in the movie. But also, other movies have done a much, much better job of that. Like, I'm thinking in particular, like, I still think, like, Brokeback Mountain is an incredibly powerful movie for its statements about, being a closeted homosexual and not being true to yourself and everything. Like, that is a great example of that. And then Call Me by Your Name just doesn't hold a candle to that, if that is what they were going for. And then also my final part is that there's the inspiration for the title of the movie. There's a scene that's they basically are talking, and they call each other by the other's name.
Okay. And
like coming out of there, I was like, what the I didn't understand what the point of that was at all. And if it wasn't the title of the movie, I would have thought like, okay, this is just a weird kind of quirk or whatever. But the farther I get away from it, the more I think that maybe it's because they want their. And again, this is all stuff that I'm putting into the movie because I didn't feel it was communicated to me.
Okay.
I feel like maybe it was them like wanting to live vicariously through the other, like, Elliot.
I see.
Yeah, I don't know. This was the movie was just not good. I was not a fan of it, and it's up for a ton of Oscars. So
yeah, 4.
Yeah, yep. So we'll see.
Yeah. That's kind of a shame that you didn't connect to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Way.
Are you intrigued to see it? Are you going to see it?
Yeah, it's not going to be in theaters. I'll have to wait until VOD or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So so that's Call Me by Your Name. And Tiny, what's your first potpourri?
This will be brief, but recently my wife Paige, I don't want to say stumbled upon, but on a whim started watching The Wire.
I think you mentioned that last time.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I went to bed early at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock one night, and I wake up the next day and she's like, I watched the first 2 episodes of The Wire. I'm like, what? It like blew me away.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I'd say of the 60 episodes, I probably watched 50 with her.
Nice.
She skipped ahead a little bit, which I don't blame her. And so this was my 3rd time going through the show, and man, it completely reinvigorated every opinion I had of that show.
Yeah.
It's just like, cause she's like, I was explaining things to her, and like, I'm so used to like all the terminology and all the stuff that's thrown around in the series that I was like explaining some of it to her, and that show has so much subtext and so much, makes so many subtle points that like, you either have to watch it multiple times or like talk to people about it in order to catch everything.
It's a great like conversation show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we would pause it, and like I would explain something to her. She would like tell me how she interpreted something, and like she like interpreted stuff that I didn't pick up on.
That's awesome.
Like with Michael and his relationship to his younger brother's dad.
Yeah.
She picked up on that right away.
Really?
Just boom. And like, I remember when I was watching it, I didn't quite get it at first.
Yeah.
Until that kind of concludes. And she got it like right away, and I was like impressed. And, but yeah, that's the best TV show of all time. It's so amazing. I can't even articulate how good that show is. It's just unbelievable. And it had me, I think after we finished watching it, or maybe partway through, I just started like going through Amazon and seeing how many books there were about it. 'Cause I was like, I got to keep.
Nice.
I know there's like several books about it that are out there, and I had always intended to read a bunch of them, and I don't think I've read any of the books about the show. And I added like 3 or 4, I think, to my wish list. And
nice.
I'm gonna try to get those and read them. And
I have one. I can loan it to you. It's no problem.
Okay.
It's like I think it's like an episode by episode thing, an episode guide. But there's some really great like essays at the start of it.
Okay.
That kind of break down the show, and like David Simon talks about kind of the structure of it and the kind of behind the scenes of it and everything. It's a really great read. And I actually just got on Audible. It was just recently released, probably like a couple weeks ago, I think, at the time of this recording. But it's called All the Pieces Matter: The Inside Story of The Wire. I'm very excited to listen to it on Audible. But it's basically the definitive oral history of the iconic and beloved TV show The Wire, as told by the actors, writers, directors, and others involved in its creation. And yeah, God, that show is just so incredible.
It is.
How did you feel? This is your first time watching the HD transfer of the remastered.
I was really surprised. I was not. I remember when they announced they were remastering it, and I was like, big deal. I just didn't. I wasn't really that interested in it, but it's amazing how much detail of that. It's amazing how much detail of that city jumps off the screen in HD. I was really surprised. Like I wasn't expecting to be. I just didn't think it needed to be remastered. Like I was fine with it being in the standard ratio and definition and everything, but man, I'm so glad they remastered it. It's because it is a fiction that's masquerading as the truth, and to see, like watching it this time, I was like thinking of it more as like a fictitious story as opposed to, communicating all these truths about. This city and urban decay and our society and how we treat each other and, all these different concepts that the show communicates. I kind of just, to see it polished and beautiful in a lot of ways, really added another level to it for me personally. So.
And yeah, we are retreading some of the stuff we talked about last time.
Are we?
The only reason I'm bringing that up is because I know that Tony is going to give me crap about it. So, so
I don't even remember saying that stuff last time. I couldn't remember.
It was at the top of the episode. But but yeah, it's funny because the last time I rewatched it was probably a year or so, or a couple years ago. And it was the first time I'd watched it on the HD version. I had actually bought it on Blu-ray and I watched it that way. And some things that are kind of funny is like it was originally produced in the 4:3 square format,
right?
And then for the HD they made it widescreen and everything. So there's considerably more in the frame than what was originally shown on television and stuff. And what I thought was interesting about that is like you said, the detail is incredible. Like it's amazing. It's immaculate. But there's like instances. I remember at least one instance where I think like Herc and Carver or it might have been Herc and I can't remember her name. Why can't I remember her name?
Kima,
yeah. I think Herc and Kima are like staking out the low rises. And they're eating like chicken or something, or they're eating and drinking fast food. And it's funny because in that scene, you can see the actor who plays Herc, you can see him move the label as he comes into frame to take
Really?
Yeah, so that they don't see, so that it doesn't get picked up on the camera.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, it's not anything that's too, like, it's one or two times that happened, but I saw it, I was like, that's actually pretty freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, I had just a great time rewatching it, and just, I had a stronger emotional reaction to it this time.
Nice.
Like a lot of the stuff that happins with Bubbles.
Yeah.
Like I broke down into tears a couple times.
Oh my god! Like his whole arc is incredible,
unbelievable. And Paige was like heartbroken by Duquan.
Yes.
God the fourth and fifth season, she was like, she was just like, oh, Dookie, like through it like so many times.
The fourth season alone is,
I know,
incredibly powerful.
I gained a whole new appreciation for the fourth season. This go through. But yeah, as we were starting the first episode of the last season, she was like, Paige was like, God, what are we gonna do after this? And I was like, I know, you're gonna have some withdrawal. It's gonna be
Make her watch The Shield next.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she'll probably like it, but I don't know if she'd like it as much as that. But.
Right. Well, I mean, they're both cop shows, but they're wildly different.
Wildly different. Yeah.
Plus, you'll want to wait until the Shield remaster, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. So cool. That's The Wire.
Yeah.
Nice.
So perfectly good.
Right. I kind of want to rewatch it now, but I'm so busy with ER and I really need to do I need to get back on track with my podcasting. But anyway, I know I've been saying that, but it's just been a busy start to 2018. But anyway,
right.
Like The Wire. I recently, basically on my lunch break, since I work from home, on my lunch break one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to kind of not organize my DVDs and stuff, but, on my, TV,
entertainment
stand, it's a TV stand.
Yeah.
Let's not call a Gremlin a Cadillac or something. It's a
wow. You're totally a car guy, aren't you?
No, not at all. I was gonna say let's not call shitty. I was gonna make like a wine and everything.
Okay.
You know, I don't know. Let's not call Miller Lite, Sun King. That's
okay. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Anyway, so I'm sorry, guys. So the bottom of my TV stand, I have I have a considerable amount of my kind of big box sets. I have The Wire on Blu-ray, the complete set. I have the Breaking Bad limited edition barrel case of the entire series on Blu-ray. Then I have kind of my prized possession of this is my Lost complete series Blu-ray collection. That's all. That's the entire series. It's kind of shaped like the island. It's very cool. Then I have like Halloween, the complete series, and the Lord of the Rings box set, and then my Bond 50 James Bond box set on Blu-ray. So anyway, I basically cleaned out the bottom of my TV stand and kind of rearranged them and everything. And every time I was like, I could rewatch The Wire.
Yeah,
I could rewatch Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I could rewatch Lost. I'm serious. I could seriously rewatch Lost.
I bet. Yeah.
It's been way too long. So
I want to give that a little more time before I rewatch that.
Well, yeah, and we need to prep our podcast on it. We're not going to do a podcast on it.
Yeah.
A Lost podcast. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, that's my tangent off of your thing. But my next potpourri. First. Oh, I said call me by your name. So my second potpourri.
Oh, it is your second.
Yeah, my final potpourri, and we'll wrap this up soon, I promise. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Nice.
Yes. So I finally watched this movie. I had rented a bunch of movies on Vudu and Google Play. A couple of them expired before I could watch them.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah, so kind of backstory. I was very sick last Tuesday, and I was like, it was one of those things where it sucks that I work in a call center because I had no voice. So it's like I literally couldn't work, and I hate calling off work, especially when I work from home. I mean, it's so easy to just work.
Right.
But I couldn't talk, and I was sitting there. I was sitting here on my couch, and I was like, you know what? I have the day off. I'm going to kind of be resting and everything. What I'm going to do, I have all of these rentals that I have that are like going to expire in the next week or so. I'm just going to watch as much of them as I can.
Nice.
And so I put on Shane, and watched about 25 minutes of that before I fell asleep and was in like a cold medicine coma.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I'm getting nothing. Like, this is not, I'm not getting any of this done.
Yeah.
So that one ended up expiring because I was like 19 hours left on it. And then also, unfortunately, the Towering Inferno expired too.
Bummer.
Yeah. I got like maybe 45 minutes into that before I had to turn off because I was, dead. So if you have that on DVD or Blu-ray?
I have it on Divid.
Divid? Okay. I'll have to borrow it from you at some point.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I did get to watch Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Now, I didn't expect it to be so fun.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, my perspective of it was that I thought that it was like kind of a, not gritty Western, but I thought it was more more of a traditional Western of these two outlaws that are being chased and everything. So I was very delighted that it was a more energetic and comedic thing in the performances of Paul Newman and Robert Redford. Like, their chemistry their performances are just out of this world. And I love that the movie kept that energy, that kind of comedic energy, all the way through to the end. Like, it could have easily been like this dramatic ending that's like they this very dramatic ending, but like even the last line of the freaking movie is kind of a joke. And it's just, it's so great. And one thing I want to point out to it is that, a considerable amount of the movie is that they're being hunted by this posse. And, I loved the tension of that. Like, the way that that's shown is like they're just being hunted down by this posse, and they're of considerable distances away from each other, but they are being hounded by it, and they are seeing them, tracking them from far away. And the posse is relentless. And I loved the way that the tension unfurled, because like Butch and Sundance are exhausted, and it gets to them and everything. It's just, it's amazing that, how that was filmed and shown and communicated to us. Just the exhaustion. Like, I was tense for a considerable amount of the movie. It's just, I thought that was great. So overall, I'll wrap it up because we are running long, but I absolutely loved Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And,
nice.
This was the first of what will probably end up being a lot of viewings. I'll have to pick it up and add it to my collection.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked it too. It's kind of like the male Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Wow, that's true. Holy crap. Oh,
Right.
That would be a great double feature.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it within the past couple of years too, and really liked it as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, my last entry, it'll be brief, is War for the Planet of the Apes. I really liked it. I just love the trilogy as a whole. I feel like each film is kind of unique to itself and sets itself apart from the others. But is a great trilogy together. I think the first movie just surprised the hell out of me, because I was not in favor of it. I thought it was kind of stupid to try to remake the franchise again or reboot the franchise, and I wasn't thrilled about James Franco at the time, and I was just like, whatever. I really wasn't into it. And then the movie just ended up surprising the hell out of me and being like a pretty good movie. A lot of heart, and just it took itself serious in the right way, you know? And then that sequel, what was the sequel even called? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That's the best of the three, I think, without question. And that just blew me away. I was like, damn, this motion capture aside, this is just a really gorgeous, incredibly filmed movie. And just a really good story. And like I said, it just kind of takes itself serious in the right way. It's not ridiculous or over the top. I think that second movie is phenomenal. And then this was a great conclusion, War for the Planet of the Apes. I think it wrapped everything up nicely and stuck to a lot of the themes from the trilogy. Woody Harrelson's one of my favorite actors, and I love it equally when he's playing the protagonist versus when he's playing an antagonist or the villain. I love him in both roles, but when he's a villain, he's just so bad. And he was just, wicked in this movie. Yeah. Just wicked.
Bad as in evil.
Evil, yes. Yeah. That's what I meant, yeah. He's always an amazing actor. I just love him. I love Woody Harrelson. And so I was ecstatic to see him playing a villain in this movie, and he had it turned up to 11, and I loved what he did. And I was really proud of myself. Again, usually I'm not great at this stuff, but I was able to pick out Steve Zahn's voice.
Oh, nice.
As the bad ape. I was like, is that Steve Zahn? It was especially when
nice.
I guess, to my discredit, it was during like a pratfall where like the monkey runs off and falls. He's like, I'm okay. I was like, that's Steve Zahn. That's Steve Zahn's voice. I know it. And I looked it up. I was like, yeah, got it.
Nice.
And it was just a really cool plot device. The whole what's happening with the humans was a good idea that worked really well. It was a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice. I Yeah, I need to rewatch. I bought it on Blu-ray, so I need to. I kind of want to set some time aside to just watch all 3 at some point. Maybe those will be like what I edit the podcast to.
Right.
But yeah.
And I don't know how Andy Serkis wears that suit and
Oh my god,
shrinks himself down to like 4'10". It's incredible acting.
It's not. I mean,
what?
It's just you had me at the suit. Like there's stuff, but I don't think you're.
But no,
being very credible here.
The mocap is amazing.
Yeah,
it's that was another thing I wanted to mention is sometimes when I was sitting there watching it, I was like, I could not tell that it was CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was that good. I was
Absolutely.
like, wow, how did they get an orangutan to do that? But it's like, it's CGI. It's just really some of the best CGI that I can think of.
Absolutely. And each entry in this franchise was groundbreaking and like managed to up itself. Like it's incredible, and from a technical level.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed War for the Planet of the Apes. Like you, I think I like Dawn a lot more, but as far as a concluding chapter of a trilogy, it was really, really strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that will do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. We kind of had a lot to go through after
been a while.
taking a week off. Yeah. To conclude the show, I want to just mention, first of all, that you can become a patron of Obsessive Viewer by going to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. We recently got a new patron, Victor Gamboa, who is the host of the Outer Limits podcast. Great dude. He's been supporting my he's been a supportive presence for Anthology. I remember in the early days of my solo podcast Anthology, he gave me a lot of good feedback and a lot of good support and everything. I was delighted to see that he became a patron. Now I don't know how long he's going to be a patron because he actually just revealed on Twitter that he is expecting a child. So
nice.
So congrats to Victor, and no hard feelings if you have to, cancel the Patreon subscription.
Yeah.
But speaking of Patreon, our friend of the show, Robert Garter, who is a Patreon subscriber for Anthology. Well, technically, he's a Patreon subscriber for all of us. He likes all of our stuff, and he's a great dude. I've emailed and tweeted him back and forth and everything, and I promise I'm going to get those bonus reviews for Anthology out for you, Robert. But anyway, he actually upped his Patreon subscription so that he could get us to review a movie for him for Obsessive Viewer. So he joined that level there, and so next week we are going to be reviewing Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes.
Because as Robert said in his email to me, he is determined to make me a Guillermo del Toro fan, and I feel like he's just forcing me to try to pronounce Guillermo del Toro without messing it up. So
I'm with you on that one, Robert. I'm a fan.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We'll have that next week. And then as an added bonus, I told him that since it's a lot of money that he's giving us, which, I mean, honestly, Robert, you can drop it down to your other one. I feel kind of guilty since I haven't gotten the other reviews out, but I'll get all of those reviews out, I promise. But anyway, as a bonus, I told him that if he picked a number, I would watch whatever number corresponded to my Netflix list, and I would use that as my potpourri for the episode that we review Pan's Labyrinth. So he told me that he wanted number 97. So he made me count a lot. But the movie that is on Netflix on my list at number 97 is Paddington.
Oh.
So I'm going to check that out. That'll be my potpourri. I've actually heard really great things about Paddington 2.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure that this one should be interesting.
All right.
All right, that will do it. We'll be back next week. And, also, again, if you want to support us on Patreon, you will get, exclusive access to our RSS feed that is just filled with me, doing film commentaries. I actually just recently recorded a commentary track for the first Iron Man. Don't know when I'm going to post that, but it'll be there at some point. But check that out. I also have film commentaries for Jingle All the Way and I Love You Man. So, having said all that, Tiny, is there anything else you want to
Nope.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at ovpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or anywhere else podcasts are found. If you'd like to support the show, the best and easiest way is to leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. More ratings and reviews means it'll be easier for people to find the show in the highly competitive film and TV podcast genre. It also provides us with valuable feedback on the show. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a one-time PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate or become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for recurring donations with different reward tiers. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, notebooks, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can also buy other great TeePublic designs in our store, and we'll get a small commission on the sale. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Loudlike from their EP, Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes, and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. We love to hear from you guys. You can contact us by emailing podcast@obsessiveviewer.com or by tweeting us at obsessiveviewer, at obsessivetiny, and at IamMikeWhite. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer, where you can take part in discussions and polls between episodes. For more podcast content, check out Anthology, Matt's solo podcast, where he's reviewing The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer and exploring other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows. You can find Anthology at anthologypod.com and anywhere podcasts are found. For book lovers, you can check out our sister site at obsessivebooknerd.com for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the app of your choice. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.